So today we're gonna do the pattern that is the naughty word spelled backwards. So all of the ones we do today are gonna be side angle. This one is kind of a lot, okay? But my pep talk for this is, I'm not gonna give you an entire test filled with this pattern. Do you get what I'm saying? Like, a test is a collection of easy, medium, and difficult problems. So what we're going to do today with this pattern is kind of tough and it's a little bit overwhelming, but understand your test isn't going to be all this, right? Nothing from you guys. So when you do this pattern, you're going to have to do this flow chart. I'm going to show you a little bit of it and then we'll do a few problems. And then I'll show you a little bit more and then we'll do a few problems. Because if I do the whole thing all at once, it's just like super overwhelming. So only for this pattern, you're going to do this flow chart. It's going to start with your angle, theta, which you're only going to have one angle because it's side angle. So you can't mess that up. It's the only angle you're given. It's either obtuse or acute. What does obtuse mean? Because we'll do that one first. Bigger than 90, acute, smaller than 90. Okay. So if theta is obtuse, there are two ways that this can turn out. Your opposite side is bigger than your adjacent side. And I'm going to draw little pictures for each of these so that you can have a visual. When I draw them down here, when we do the problems, I don't draw them to scale because it's just not worth it. But I will here, I'll attempt to make it look like an obtuse angle. So here would be your obtuse angle. And that's the only one you have. We call it theta. That's a little Easter egg looking Greek letter. Your opposite side, which is this one, is bigger than your adjacent side. And so everything just works out and you just do the problem and you're going to get one solution, like one set of answers. Just do the problem. That's all that means. Exactly the same as we did last time. Just answer the question. That's all that means, right? If your opposite side is less than or equal to your adjacent side, here's what that will look like. This is your obtuse angle. This is the adjacent side, the one that's next to it. But if your opposite side is smaller than your adjacent side, what happens or fails to happen? Like, what's going on there? You don't have a triangle. If it's too small, it won't reach. Do you get what I'm saying? When I taught geometry a million years ago, we talk about stuff like this, like whether a triangle gets formed or not. I would get spaghetti and we would measure them and you would see if they connect. Do you get what I'm saying? Like, it didn't make a triangle. So you just get no solution. I'm not going to make you guys cut out spaghetti, though. We're a little bit more advanced than we could, though, I suppose. Right. So what I want you to do, and there's 6 ways this can all turn out with the whole flow chart. That's why there's 6 problems on there. Can you find these 2? Like I said, I don't want to do this whole flow chart at once. It's too overwhelming. Can you find the ones that have obtuse angles, though? And we'll do those 2, and I'll show you how they turn out. Like, do you see one that has an obtuse angle? 2. All right, let's go to that one. Now, again, you can draw it to scale if you want to, but I don't do that. I just draw something with 3 sides. And this is why I coached you to do this last time. Remember how I said last time it doesn't matter so much, but it's going to in the future? Today is that day. You need to start with the bottom left. And I don't care if it's A, B, or C, but it has to be the angle you got given. So were we given A, B, or C? A. Okay, so angle A goes there. It's 142. Again, I know that angle doesn't look like it's 142, but whatever. It's like there's more important things here, right? What goes across from that? Little a, good, which is 7.3. So we had big A and baby A. Now the next one you want to do is the bottom right, but you don't have another angle. What's the side that you were given? Because you want to put that across from there. B. So I'm going to make this big B. Little b, 5.4 goes across from that. The one you don't know anything about goes at the top. And you need to do it this way, or you're not going to be able to tell which is your opposite and which is your adjacent. Your whole triangle is going to get twisted. So you need to set them up this way. All right, so C is the one that we don't know anything about. Now for today, every single pattern is going to be side angle because that's the lesson I'm teaching you. But do you see how this is side angle? Like, do you see that there? A side, and then an angle? Because that's going to be all of them today. But when you see that one, when it's the naughty word spelled backwards, that is, hey, I need to do that flow chart. And it starts with either your angle is obtuse or acute. I had you guys choose this one, obtuse. All right, so we are gonna write theta is obtuse. And usually at that point I get asked, Miss Cole, do I have to write that? Yeah, that's what this like pattern is. You're going through this analysis, this flowchart analysis. So theta is obtuse. Which side is the opposite and which side is the adjacent? Which one's which? All right, 7.3 is opposite of the angle that you have. 5.4 is adjacent. So the opposite is what to the adjacent? Bigger. That means you're good. Just do the problem. That means we are just going to do this problem. Cool? Like just answer it. So now let's make our list of what we're missing. We're going to find angles first, then sides, smallest to biggest. Now the first angle you're going to have to find is B, because that's the only one that you have another side for. So we're going to find big B first, and then big C, angle C, and then side C. So that's the order we're going to find stuff in. So to set it up, you need a side across from an angle, which we have right here. So you're going to put 7.3 over sine of 142. And do you remember me saying, hey, it's usually a good idea to just go ahead and write that twice? Like, do you remember that? I know a weekend happened, but do you remember me saying that? Like, you have to do it twice, so you may as well just write it twice. And then on the other side, you're putting what you're trying to find. Now we're trying to find angle B. So how would that get set up? Good. 5.4 over sine B. Now, what I want to happen when I go to type this, I want you to watch me do it, and then I'll pause and you guys can do it. When you are looking for an angle, you have to start with invert. Don't click anything yet. I want you to watch me, and then I'll pause and give you a chance to do it. But when you are looking for an angle, you have to do inverse. Do you see how I did second sine? It's got sine with a little negative on there. Why did I do that? Because I'm looking for an angle, okay? Then you are going to cross multiply and divide. So it's 5.4. Don't do anything yet. Watch me do it, and then I'll pause and give you a chance. 5.4 sine 142. Oh, look, it started a parenthesis for me. It started a parenthesis for me. I have to end it. And then divided by 7.3. And then that will give you your answer. So what we're going to do is write that on our paper, but we're not done with the problem. And unfortunately, we need to reuse that answer. When you reuse an answer, you have to store it. If you don't store it and do the copy paste, you won't be accurate enough in your final answer. Where's the store button? Does anyone remember how to store something? We did go through this. There's a couple of classes ago. You see store right here? Right next to the one, you're going to hit store. Now, what did we find? Because you want to store it as the letter you found it as. B, store alpha B, enter, store alpha B, enter, store alpha B, enter. It's like capture it, quick capture it before it gets away. And then you can clear out the calculator. So I stored it. Now, when you go to get angle C, you don't have to actually do any work. It's going to happen all within the calculator, because what do all the angles have to add up to? 180. So you're going to do 180 minus what? B, good. 180 minus B, and then also minus, what's the other one? 142. This is probably going to be a pretty small angle, because if this one's 142, like there's not a whole lot left. So I got a pretty small answer, 10.907. Cool. Thank you for confirmation. Quick, capture it before it gets away. Store alpha what? That was C. So store it as C. Store alpha C, enter. Store alpha C, enter. Store alpha C, enter. It's a lot of button pushing you got to get through. But I believe in you, right? Then you can clear that out. I'm going to set this aside. Now we're going to find the last one. And this is why I tell people to just go ahead and write this twice in the first place, because by the time you get here, you're going to forget what on earth you're doing. We're looking for baby C. So what goes on the other side of this proportion here? We did 7.3 over sine of 142. Those are across from each other. What's going to go over here? Little c, good. Of sine of, and what was big C? Are we looking for a side or an angle? Sides. You do not need to hit second. That's only for angles. You are going to just cross multiply and divide, but do not type 10.907. You have it stored as C. You have to do the copy paste or it's not going to be accurate enough. So what you're going to type is 7.3 sine of alpha C. It'll copy and paste it in there. Close the parenthesis. Divided by what? We did cross multiply. Sine of 142. Why is that number so small? Like, hey, I got a really little answer. Yeah, angle C is really tiny. 10 degrees is not very big, like 11 degrees roughly there is not very big. That's why you got such a tiny answer. You want to be cognizant of that stuff because if you got an answer like 400, I hope you would be like, whoops, like I button pushed something wrong. All right, I'm nervous to ask, but can you go find the other one that's obtuse somewhere on here? Go like see if you can find that one. 3. Gotcha. All right, draw a triangle. I don't care if it's to scale. Start with the bottom left. Now this time it won't be A. This time it is B, 100 degrees. You have to set them up the same every time. What goes across from that? What's little b? 60. Now the next angle would go in the bottom right. You don't have another angle, but what's the side that you do have? Little a. So 82 goes there. This is A. The one you don't know anything about, which is C, goes at the top. What's the pattern? Side angle. And for today, they're all going to be side angle, but you know, I'm just trying to get you to look at it. So when you see this pattern, that should trigger in your head, hey, I need to do that analysis. This is the annoying one. The naughty word spelled backwards, that's the annoying one. So theta is what? Obtuse. Ms. Cole, do I have to write that? Yeah, part of the problem. Then you compare which one of these is opposite and which one is adjacent. 60 is opposite. So the opposite is what? Smaller than the adjacent. That means it's not going to reach. So you get to stop and there is no answer. Now that can still be worth a few points on the test though, because a point for the picture, a point for doing this analysis, and then a point for saying no solution. So it's still even worth a good bit. And you didn't even do the problem, which is kind of nice. All right, let's go back to that flow chart. That's what happens if it's obtuse. You either do the problem or you don't. Acute. Opposite, bigger than adjacent. Hey, that's the exact same way this one started out. See how it's the same? And it's going to be the exact same thing. Your opposite side is bigger than the adjacent side. You're going to get an answer. Just do the problem. That is just do the problem. You are good to go. Just answer the question. So here's what I'd like for you to do. We're going to do this together. I want us to set up the last 4 and see if we can figure out which one that is. All right, we're going to practice setting them all up and we're going to see which one has the opposite bigger than the adjacent. So when you go to set up 1, which angle goes in the bottom left? B, 74. Across from that, 78. And then what's the other side that I've got? A, 85 goes there. So this is A. The one you don't know anything about is C. Is this is the opposite bigger than adjacent? No, it's not. That's not the one I'm looking for. Okay, let's see if we can keep going and find it. It was not that one. All right, so for number 4, what angle goes in the bottom left? That's where you start. A, good, 43. Across from that, 16. Good, little b is 8, means this is angle B, and the one you don't know anything about is C. Perfect. Is this the pattern I was looking for? Is the opposite bigger than the adjacent? Yes, okay, it means just do the problem. Just do the problem, all right? It's side-side angle. Theta is acute. And the opposite is greater than the adjacent. And again, I always get, Miss Cole, do I have to write that? Yes, because I'm not a mind reader. So like, in order for me to grade something, it has to be written on the paper. For heaven's sake, it's not that much. But that means just do the problem, right? If we survive this one, we'll do our like middle of the notes break after this. Let's make our list. Angles first. What angle am I going to find first? B, good. And then C, and then baby C. I need a side across from an angle to set this up. So which side across from an angle have I got? Yeah, A, good. Woken you up. 16 over sine of 43. And my suggestion is just go ahead and write it twice. You're going to need it twice, so just write it twice. Because by the time you do all that other stuff, you're going to forget what you need to do. If you just write it twice, then you'll have it. Now, what you're looking for goes on the other side. We're looking for angle B. So what's going to go right here? Hint, there's only one other number in the triangle. Open your eyes. Good. 8 over sine of B. Now, here's where all the button pushing comes in. All right. You are going to cross multiply and divide, but first, because you're looking for an angle, what are you going to have to type? Right, good. So it's perfect. All right. Second sine, and then you cross multiply. So it's 8 sine of 43, close parenthesis, and then what? Divide by 16. Enter. That'll be your answer. I need to reuse that. So quick, capture it before it gets away. How do I capture it? Store alpha B, enter. Store alpha B, enter. Store alpha B, enter. All right, and then you can clear it out. How do I do C without any other writing? I don't have to write anything down. I just have to click, click, click in the calculator. Good, minus 43, which is this one, minus B. You copy paste it. If you don't copy paste, your answer won't be accurate to 3 decimal places. It'll be off by a little bit. All right, so there's C. That one was really big. Why is that one so big? It's because the other two were really small. This one's 43. This one's only about 20, so a lot left for that one. Oh, real quick, what do I need to do with that before I do anything else? Store it. Store alpha C, enter. Store alpha C, enter. Store alpha C, enter. And after you store, you can clear it out. Once you store it, it's good. You can even turn the calculator on and turn it back, like turn it off and turn it back on. It'll still be stored. You can't clear it. That's why I clear all the memories. All right. And then this is why I say to write this twice, because after you do all that, you're probably going to forget what you need to do. You already have it set up. What's the last thing you're trying to find? That's what needs to go over here. C over sine. Yeah, now I'm writing 117.062, but when I type it in here, I'm going to use the stored one, the store alpha C. Okay, because if you just type this decimal, it's going to be off by a little bit. Do I hit second for this one? No, perfect. You're going to do 16 sine of C. Do the copy paste alpha C. We're cross multiplying, and then divide by sine 43. That should be a larger answer because C was the larger angle. And yeah, that makes sense. 20 is bigger than 8 and 16. All right, so flip back over, and I'm going to show you the last little bit of the flow chart that we're doing here. So let me recap. This is only for this pattern. It's just if you get side-side angle that you have to do this analysis, okay? So if your angle's obtuse, you either do the problem or you don't. It either works or you get no solution. When your angle is acute, if it works, it just works. But when it doesn't, it gets a little bit more complicated, all right? So if your opposite side, oh, sorry, I will fix that, is less than or equal to your adjacent side, opposite is less than or equal to adjacent, it actually splits 3 other ways. So that's where it gets more complicated. So leave yourself space to split this 3 ways. So the first version, and what you do is you drop down the height. You compare to the height of the triangle. So for the first version, the opposite side is smaller than the height. And again, I'm going to draw you a picture so you can see what it looks like. This would be your acute angle. If you drop down the height to make that right triangle, that's H in there for your height. If your opposite side is smaller than the height, what happened or failed to happen? Like, what is going on there? Not long enough to make a triangle, so you end up with no solution. So basically, if the opposite side is not big enough, it won't reach. And so you don't get a triangle. Like if your opposite side is less than whatever, it's not going to work out. Second version is the opposite side equals the height. And that's actually kind of cool when that happens, because here's your acute angle. If you drop down the height to make that right triangle, if your opposite side is the height, what happened? What'd you get? Yeah, it just is a right triangle. That means you don't even need law of sines. You get Pythagorean theorem, you get sine, cosine, tangent back, SOHCAHTOA, everything you did on your quiz comes back. You get all of that. So it's just a right triangle. So you get all of those theorems back. Those are all going to work now because you have a right angle. All right, and I have a little triangle cut out to try and illustrate how this last one's going to work for you. We did opposite smaller than the height. We did opposite equals the height. So this last one, opposite is greater than the height. So what happens there is you get 2 solutions. There's actually 2 versions of the triangle. Let me show you here, and then I'll attempt to draw it. You get one triangle that looks sort of normal. You guys all see this? It's hard for me to do under a projector, but can you see this triangle that I created here? Just cut it out. Okay, so you get that one. You get the like sort of normal one. This is your theta down here that just sort of works out. But what you can do is bend it back on itself. And what you end up with, oh, it's so washed out, you can't really see it, is do you see this tiny skinny little triangle in here, the really small slice one? That's the second version of the triangle. So you end up with 2 solutions to the triangle because this bends on itself and you get, I don't know, it's the best I can show you is to just cut this out. But it bends on this straight line. Do you guys remember from geometry or just from being alive for 15 years, how many degrees a straight line is worth? It's 180 because that's going to come up. So hold on to that. All right, I'll attempt to draw them on here, and if you want to, you can try to draw them too, but as long as you know that means there's 2 solutions, then you're good. The one looks sort of normal, and the other one is like you bend that side back on itself, and you get this like tiny skinny little triangle. It looks sort of like that. I don't know. If you want to come up and look at this and play with it, you can bend it back and forth, and I have all the measurements written on it if you're interested in seeing it. But as long as you know this means that there's 2 solutions, then we're good. So let's look at number 1 there. We already drew it. We can see it's side-side angle. Again, for today, they all are side-side angle. And so when you see side-side angle, that triggers in your head, okay, I need to do this analysis. 74 degrees is acute. So theta is acute. And then you compare the opposite and the adjacent. So the opposite is 78, the adjacent's 85. Opposite is what compared to the adjacent? Smaller. So opposite is smaller than adjacent. And that means you have to drop down the height. I'm going to make it a different color. It's not really going to show up on here, but it will when I, take a picture of this and post it. So you're going to drop down the height. So what I want you to try to do is just look at that right triangle that we created. We want to find the height. Do this exactly like you did on your quiz, and you guys all did it really well. I already graded them. Would you use sine, cosine, or tangent? And I can use that because it's a right triangle. It's sine. Do you see how it's opposite over hypotenuse? Listen to me. It will always be sine. What will it always be? Sine. It will always be sine. So you're going to do sine 74. Oops. Sine 74 equals h over 85. And you're going to type that in and get h. How would you type that in and get h? Again, you all did it brilliantly on your quiz. Yeah, 85 times sine 74. Type it. Don't watch me type it. You need to type it too. There's so much button pushing in this. The button pushing is a skill you've got to have because I can't help you with that on the test. All right. Oh, thank you. I heard you say that. 81.707. And then you compare one more time. Our opposite side was 78. 78 is what compared to 81? Less. Your opposite side is less than your height, which means it's not going to reach. It's going to look like this. It won't reach because it's too little. And so you're all like, thank goodness. No solution. That would still be worth a boatload of points on the test, though, even though you didn't actually do the problem, because it's a point for drawing the picture. I'd give at least 2 or maybe 3 points for the analysis and then a point for writing no solutions. So you still get a lot of points. You didn't even do the problem. It's kind of nice. All right, what have we got left? Number 5, draw something with 3 sides. It doesn't need to be to scale. What letter is going to go in the bottom left, A, B, or C? C, good. It's the one that you're given. So 30 degrees. Across from that is 4.5. And then what's going to go here? 9. Good. And so what's going to go here? B. And then what's the one we don't know anything about? Is A. What's the pattern? Side, side, angle. But again, when you take a test, all the patterns are going to be mixed up. Like that's the only one we're doing today, but that's the pattern. Okay, so you should go, hey, it's the naughty word spelled backwards. That's that silly flow chart thing that I really am not fond of that I have to do. Okay, so you're going to write theta is what? Acute. And then you're going to compare. The opposite, which is 4.5, is what compared to the adjacent? Smaller. Oh no, it's not big enough. Bummer. If it was obtuse, you'd be done and you would just write no solution, right? But when it's acute, you drop down the height and you're going to find the height and do a comparison to that. It will always be sine. So how will I set it up? Sine of 30 equals h over 9. You're trying to just look at this right triangle. So go ahead and type that in and find your height. I know it looks like a lot of work and I'm going through it slowly to explain it, but like once you get good at them, you can start to just turn it out. All right, what'd you get? Oh my gosh, guys, it came out to 4.5. What does that mean? It is actually a right triangle. Your opposite side is the height. Now, in that case, I do actually redraw this so that I can have it be to scale. Actually, you know what? I wrote with a pen on there. I'm going to just actually redraw it. You don't have to. This part's kind of like up to you. But I would redraw it so that it actually looks like a right triangle. Because it'll mess me up if it doesn't look like a right triangle. So then we're going to put what we're missing. We're missing angle A, we're missing angle B, and we're missing little a. And this will go super quick and easy because it is a right triangle. What's A going to be? This is 30, so that's 60. And B is 90. And then how could we find little a? At that point, you have a lot of options because you have Pythagorean theorem and you have your sine, cosine, tangent. What would you do? I'll work it out however you would choose to do it. Would you do the Pythagorean theorem? All right, you would have a squared plus 4.5 squared equals 9 squared. I'm going to just use my calculator for that one. I got a squared equals 60.75. I see some of you typing ahead of me. Can anyone confirm that? I saw you do it ahead of me. Did you? Or did you just type the whole thing all at once?
That's right.
Okay. And then when I did square root of that, I got 7.794. So if it comes out to a right triangle, you have so many options because all those theorems come back. You can do all that stuff.
I was just confused if I used X.
Oh, that's fine. As long as you don't write X in like the answer field, because then I won't know which one you mean. That's got to be A, B, or C. All right, last one. Draw a triangle. What's going to go in the bottom left? A, good. So you guys are getting good at like drawing them, which is, getting started. If you can't get started, you're going to have trouble with that. All right, across from that, be 28. B is 41. C goes at the top because we don't know anything about that. And your pattern is side-side angle. Every time you see that naughty word, you're like, oh no, I have to do all this analysis. Okay, but you're going to be all right. Theta is what? Acute. Good. Opposite is what compared to adjacent? Less than. Womp womp. That's a bummer because then you have to do more work. If it was obtuse, you'd be done. But for acute, you drop down this height and find the height. How would you set that up? It's the same every single time. It's very repetitious. Good. Sine 30 equals h over 41. Good. You guys have got it. And then you type that in and find the height. You would type 41 times sine 30. Me too. You get 20.5. And then you compare again. Your opposite is 28. Opposite is what compared to the height? Greater. Opposite is greater than the height. Look back at the flow chart. What does that mean? You get two solutions. Don't panic. It's just more button pushing. It's not more writing. It's just more button pushing. So here's what you want to do. Draw a line down here so you have space to put both answers. And we're going to make our list. We need big B. What else do we need? Big C. Good. You guys have got it. You need a side across from an angle. Which one do we have across from each other? Good. 28 over what? Sine 30. And then what did I tell you you should do? Write it twice. Oh my gosh, good. Okay, you were listening to me. Perfect. Just write it twice. Because by the time you do everything else, you're going to forget how to set it up. So just go ahead and do that. All right, now look at your list. This is what you want to find next is B. So what's going to go over here? There's only one other number in the triangle, so yeah, 41. Again, this is what I like so much about trig and triangles is there's only 3 sides. So like there's only so many numbers, all right? It'll be 41 over sine of B. And then this is the part I don't like. I'm actually good with it up until there. I don't like this part because if you button push this wrong, then your answer's wrong and that frustrates me. How are we going to type it? Good. Second sine. And then you want to cross multiply 41 sine 30, close parenthesis, divided by 28. And that's it. Thank you for saying that out loud so I could know I'm right as well. Oh, quick, capture it before it gets away. Store alpha B, enter. Then you can clear it out. How do I get C without doing any more writing? Good. 180 minus the other 2, which would be alpha B, and then the 30 that we've got there. Quick, capture it. Store alpha C, enter. And then you can clear it out. Now, again, this is why I say write it twice, because I know that by the time you get there, you're going to have forgotten what you're doing. All right. What goes on this side? It's the thing you're looking for. C over sine of, now I'm going to write 102.933, just so I know that that's that angle, but make sure you use the copy and pasted version. If you type 102.933, it's not going to be accurate enough. You have to use the stored version. All right, do I hit second for this one? No. What will I type instead? 28 sine C, close parenthesis. That'll copy and paste it in there for us. Divided by sine 30. Cool. Thank you again for saying that out loud, so I know that mine is right. All right, now you don't have to write anything else. You're done with your pen or pencil. Just listen to me. Here's how you get the other answer. You know this triangle that I showed you, and I said it folded along a straight line, and I said how much is a straight line worth, and you guys all said 180. If you take 180 minus b, it'll give you the new b because you folded along a straight line. So do 180, or let me clear this all out. 180 minus alpha b gives you the new b. And then you store that as b. And what I usually get asked is, but Ms. Cole, what happened to the other b? When you store things, you just keep covering them up. You just cover up the next thing. Then I usually get asked, how do I clear out everything I've stored? You can't. Just don't worry about that. That's not a thing. You just keep covering it up what you had before, all right? So store that as the new b. Store alpha b, enter. And when you do this last one, you need to make sure you get a nice tiny, 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 tiny little answer. Because remember how the triangle was a little sliver? You should get a very, very small answer. Did you store it? Is anyone still with me? I know it's a lot of steps. You can clear all that out. You're going to do 180 minus alpha b minus, what's the other angle that was way back in the triangle originally? 30. If you do 180 minus this, and that's what b is stored at, 132 point blah, 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 minus 30. Do you get a nice tiny little answer? And you're going to store that as c. What do you notice about the decimals? Is there anything that you see there? Yeah, like, do you see that pattern? That, like, that's what's going to happen with those, all right? And then you don't have to write anything else. Did you store it as C? Store it as the new one? You're going to type this one more time. But instead of 102.933, when you copy and paste C, if you stored it correctly, it's going to plug in that 17 point whatever. So you're going to type 28 sine of C divided by, what was it? 28 sine C divided by sine 30. There we go. Good afternoon,